Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ESS Nightingale, watching the pristine rings of Saturn shimmer in the sunlight. After 20 years of service in the Earth Space Command, she thought she'd seen everything. She was wrong. The holographic display behind her replayed the footage for the 100th time. The Galactic Confederation's peacekeeping forces surrounding the Morrison family's homestead on Nueva Terra. Little Jamie Morrison, barely 8 years old, clutching his sister's hand as the Confederation troops advanced. Their parents trying to shield them, pleading that they were simple farmers, that there must be some mistake. The Confederation claimed they detected illegal weapons technology. A violation of the Treaty of Proxima that had kept humanity contained to their local sector for the past century. The Morrisons had been tending hydroponic gardens, using basic terraforming equipment approved by the Confederation themselves. It didn't matter. The peacekeepers opened fire anyway. Sarah's hands clenched into fists as the footage showed the family's final moments. 4 human lives snuffed out to send a message. To remind humanity of their place. Admiral, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cracked over the comm, "The Security Council is ready." Sarah took a deep breath, straightening her uniform. "Put them through." The holographic display shifted, showing the grim faces of Earth's highest military command. General Santos spoke first, his weathered features tight with barely contained rage. "You've all seen the footage," he said. "The Confederation has gone too far. They've violated their own laws, their own treaties. They no longer deserve the benefit of doubt." "Agreed," said Admiral Patel, her dark eyes fierce. "But we must be strategic. The Confederation outguns our conventional forces 10-1. Sarah stepped forward. "That's why it's time for Protocol Prometheus." A heavy silence fell over the conference. Protocol Prometheus, the ultimate contingency plan, developed in secret over generations. The reason Sarah and her crew had been stationed out here in Saturn's orbit, far from prying eyes. "The facilities are ready?" General Santos asked. Sarah nodded. "The shipyards have been operating at full capacity since we implemented the first phase 5 years ago. The fleet is complete." She keyed a command into her console. The hologram shifted to show massive underground facilities carved into Saturn's larger moons. Inside were rows upon rows of sleek warships, unlike anything the Confederation had ever seen. Vessels built with technology Earth had kept hidden for decades, waiting for this moment. 35 capital ships, Sarah continued. Over 200 support vessels. All equipped with quantum phase drives, metamaterial cloaking systems, and weaponry that will cut through Confederation shields like paper. "And the crews?" Admiral Patel asked. "Ready and waiting. We've been training them in secret for years, cycling personnel through deep space exercises disguised as routine patrols." General Santos leaned forward. "The Confederation believes they've cowed us into submission. They think we're a primitive species they can bully and control. It's time to show them how wrong they are. There will be consequences," Admiral Patel warned. "Once we reveal this fleet, there's no going back. The Confederation will see it as the ultimate betrayal." "They betrayed us first," Sarah said quietly, thinking of the Morrison family. "They betrayed everything they claimed to stand for. And they need to learn that humanity will not stand for it anymore." The Security Council members exchanged looks. One by one, they nodded. "Very well," General Santos declared. "Admiral Chen, you have command of the Prometheus fleet. Your first priority is securing our colonial worlds and evacuating any human civilians in Confederation space. After that." His eyes hardened. "You will show the Confederation exactly what humanity is capable of." "Understood, sir." Sarah's voice was steel. "We'll begin deployment within the hour." As the conference ended, Sarah turned back to the viewport. Soon these shipyards would be empty, their hidden fleet revealed to the galaxy. The Confederation thought they'd kept humanity confined and powerless. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," she called. "Signal all ships. Operation Prometheus is a go." Throughout Saturn's moons, massive hangar doors began to open. Engines flared to life as humanity's secret fleet emerged from hiding. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile as she watched them form up around the Nightingale. The Confederation had killed an innocent family to demonstrate their power. Now humanity would show them what real power looked like. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Rodriguez announced. Sarah nodded. "Set course for Nueva Terra. It's time to send a message of our own." The fleet aligned into formation, their quantum drives humming with barely contained energy. In a flash of light, they vanished into FTL, leaving Saturn's rings behind. The age of humanity's submission was over. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Confederation outpost on Nueva Terra had no warning. One moment their sensors showed empty space, the next, 35 warships materialized in high orbit, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence that seemed to drink in the starlight. Admiral Chen stood on the Nightingale's bridge, watching the Confederation forces scramble to respond. Their orbital defense platforms swiveled, charging ancient plasma cannons that hadn't seen real combat in decades. A pitiful handful of patrol ships broke orbit, their engines straining as they moved to intercept. "They're broadcasting a warning, Admiral," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Demanding our immediate surrender." "Send them our response," Sarah commanded. "Show them what happened to the Morrison family." The footage began broadcasting on all frequencies, the brutal execution of innocent colonists by Confederation forces. But this time, it was followed by something else, documentation of similar incidents across human space. A century of oppression, of peacekeeping actions that had left countless humans dead or displaced. "Confederation vessels are charging weapons," Tactical reported. Sarah's lips curved in a cold smile. "Deploy the quantum shields. Let them see how ineffective their weapons truly are." The patrol ships opened fire, their plasma bolts streaking across space toward the human fleet. They impacted against invisible barriers, dissipating into harmless light shows. The Confederation commanders must have been shocked, their weapons had always torn through human defenses before. "Their commander is requesting communication," Rodriguez said. "Put them through." A hologram materialized, showing a Varian officer, his scaled face twisted with confusion and fear. "This is impossible," he sputtered. "Your species doesn't have this level of technology. The Treaty of Proxima Dash. The treaty you violated when you murdered innocent civilians." Sarah interrupted. "We never signed it willingly. We simply let you believe we had no choice." She gestured to her fleet. "Humanity has been preparing for this day for generations. Every time you oppressed us, every time you killed our people, we built. We innovated. We waited." The Varian's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "The mining operations in your outer system, the research outposts. All cover for something much bigger. Your arrogance made you blind. You never bothered to look too closely at a primitive species." Sarah leaned forward. "We're giving you one chance. Withdraw your forces from Nueva Terra and all other human colonies. Release any human prisoners. Acknowledge our sovereignty." "Or what?" the Varian demanded, though his voice quavered. Sarah nodded to her tactical officer. The Nightingale's main gun powered up, a weapon unlike anything the Confederation had seen. A beam of concentrated quantum energy lanced out, striking one of the orbital defense platforms. The platform didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, its matter scattered across multiple dimensions. "That was 5% power," Sarah said quietly. "Would you like to see what these ships can do at full strength?" The Varian commander stared at where his defense platform had been, his scales pale with terror. Without another word, he cut the transmission. Within minutes, the Confederation ships were retreating, making emergency jumps to FTL. On the planet below, their ground forces were already evacuating their bases, leaving behind equipment and supplies in their haste to escape. "Admiral," Rodriguez called out, "we're receiving transmissions from other human colonies. Word of our arrival is spreading. The Confederation forces, they're pulling out everywhere." "Running?" Sarah nodded. "As expected. They're bullies, Lieutenant. And bullies are cowards when someone finally stands up to them." But she knew this was just the beginning. The Confederation wouldn't take this humiliation lying down. They would gather their forces, call in their allies, and return in overwhelming numbers. Or at least, they would try. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Deploy the quantum buoys around all human settlements. Then set course for the Arcturus Gate." The massive fleet moved with precision, dropping advanced defense platforms around every human world and outpost. Each buoy contained the same technology as their ships, technology that would render Confederation weapons useless. As they finished their work, Sarah reviewed the intelligence reports coming in from their deep cover agents. The Confederation was already calling an emergency session, trying to determine how to respond to this unprecedented show of force. Let them scheme, she thought. They didn't know that the ships they'd seen were just the beginning. That humanity had more surprises waiting. That every world they'd oppressed, every species they'd subjugated, was about to be given a choice. The age of Confederation dominance was ending. And humanity would make sure it never rose again. The Arcturus Gate hung in space like a massive crystalline spider web, its ancient technology controlling travel between three major spiral arms of the galaxy. For millennia, it had been under Confederation control. Now the Prometheus fleet surrounded it, their quantum shields creating a barrier no Confederation ship could penetrate. Admiral Chen watched from the Nightingale's bridge as the first diplomatic vessels arrived. Not Confederation ships, these belonged to the species that had suffered under Confederation rule for generations. The Keth with their crystalline bodies, the telepathic Nurai, the silicon-based drift. All had answered humanity's call. "The representatives are ready in the conference room," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Sarah nodded, straightening her uniform. This meeting would determine the future of the galaxy. As she entered the conference room, 12 alien delegates turned to face her, their expressions ranging from hope to suspicion. "Welcome," she said, taking her seat. "You've all seen our demonstration of force at Nueva Terra. You know we have technology the Confederation can't counter. But what you don't know is why we've called you here." She activated a hologram showing the quantum shield technology. "We're offering to share this with all of you. Along with other advancements we've kept hidden. But first, we need to discuss the true history of the Confederation." The Keth representative, their crystalline form shimmering, spoke first. "What do you mean, true history?" Sarah revealed another hologram, ancient star charts, archaeological data, genetic studies. The Confederation didn't arise naturally. It was engineered by the current dominant species to maintain control. They've been suppressing technological advancement, keeping other species dependent on them. The Treaty of Proxima wasn't just about containing humanity, it was about preventing us from sharing what we'd discovered. The room erupted in discussion as the delegates examined the evidence. The Nurai representative, her iridescent eyes wide, turned to Sarah. "This is why they tried to crush your colonies. They realized you'd broken through their technological barriers." "Precisely. But we weren't the first." Sarah showed more data, records of other species that had begun advancing too quickly, only to suffer mysterious accidents or natural disasters that set them back. The drift representative, their crystalline matrix pulsing with anger, spoke in their harmonic language. "They destroyed 3 of our research outposts last cycle. Claimed they were contaminated with solar radiation. They're terrified of any species achieving true independence, Sarah confirmed. But together, we can end their dominance. We're proposing an alliance. Equal partners, sharing technology and resources. No more artificial hierarchies. The delegates exchanged looks. The Keth representative raised a crystalline appendage. The Confederation fleet is massive. Even with your technology. We've thought of that, Sarah smiled. She activated one final hologram, showing something that made the delegates gasp. What you've seen of our fleet is just the beginning. We have ships hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting to be activated. But more importantly, we have this. The hologram showed a massive structure deep in interstellar space, a shipyard unlike anything the delegates had ever seen. We call it the Forge, Sarah explained. It can produce quantum-enabled ships at an unprecedented rate. With your resources and our technology, we can build a fleet that will overwhelm the Confederation in months, not years. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Then the Nurai representative stood. The Nurai collective votes to join this alliance. One by one, the other delegates rose, pledging their support. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This was what humanity had been working toward, not just freedom for themselves, but for all species oppressed by the Confederation. As the meeting concluded, her comm unit chimed. Admiral, Rodriguez's voice was urgent. The Confederation has launched a major offensive. 300 ships just emerged from FTL near the Proxima colonies. Sarah smiled grimly. Right on schedule. Signal our new allies. It's time to show the Confederation what they're really up against. The delegates followed her to the bridge, watching in awe as hidden human ships emerged from quantum space around the Confederation fleet. The trap was sprung, and the real war was about to begin. The galaxy would never be the same. The space around Proxima Centauri erupted in light as 300 Confederation warships emerged from FTL, their weapons already charging. They expected to find helpless human colonies. Instead, they found themselves surrounded. Admiral Chen watched from the Nightingale's tactical display as quantum signatures bloomed across space, hidden human vessels decloaking in perfect formation around the Confederation fleet. But they weren't alone. Keth crystalline ships shimmered into existence, their lattice-work hulls redirecting enemy fire harmlessly into subspace. Nurai psychic drive vessels phased in and out of reality, their telepathic crews coordinating with inhuman precision. Confederation fleet is attempting to regroup, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. They're calling for reinforcements. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They won't come. The quantum buoys we deployed around the Arcturus gate are working perfectly. No Confederation ship can enter this sector without our permission. On her command screen, she watched the Allied fleet execute their carefully planned strategy. The Keth ships formed an impenetrable barrier, their crystalline hulls absorbing and redirecting Confederation energy weapons. Through gaps in their formation, human vessels launched salvos of quantum torpedoes, each one capable of removing chunks of enemy ships from normal spacetime. The Nurai vessels danced between dimensions, their telepathic attacks throwing Confederation crews into confusion. And the Drift, their silicon-based ships nearly invisible to standard sensors, slipped through enemy formations to strike at crucial systems. Confederation Admiral requesting communication, Rodriguez announced. Sarah straightened in her command chair. Put them through. The hologram materialized, showing a Confederation admiral she recognized, Xerxes Van, one of their most decorated commanders. His scaled face showed a mixture of rage and disbelief. What have you done? He demanded. These species, they're forbidden from sharing military technology. The treaties dash. Your treaties were chains, Sarah cut him off. Designed to keep everyone under your control. We've shown them the truth, Admiral Van. About the Confederation's real history. About how you've manipulated and suppressed other species for centuries. Van's scales darkened with fury. You understand nothing. The treaties maintain order, prevent chaos. They prevent progress, Sarah countered. They ensure no one can challenge your dominance. But that ends today. As if to emphasize her point, a quantum torpedo struck Van's flagship, removing its entire port section from reality. The hologram flickered as secondary systems took over. Look around you, Admiral, Sarah continued. Your weapons can't penetrate our shields. Your fastest ships can't escape our quantum drives. Your best tactics mean nothing against telepathic coordination. This is what real cooperation between species can achieve. The Confederation will never surrender, Van snarled. We'll bring our entire fleet. Your entire fleet is already contained, Sarah interrupted. While we've been talking, our allies have been activating quantum buoys throughout Confederation space. Your ships are trapped in their own sectors, unable to combine forces. The galaxy you knew is gone, Admiral Van. The only question is how many more lives you'll waste before accepting it. On the tactical display, more Confederation ships were falling. Some were simply ceasing to exist, removed from spacetime by quantum weapons. Others drifted powerless, their crews incapacitated by Neurai telepathic assaults. The mighty Confederation fleet was being systematically dismantled. Van's hologram stared at something off-screen, his scales paling. Impossible, our long-range communications are being blocked, yes, Sarah confirmed. You're alone, Admiral. Your choice now is simple, surrender and join the new alliance we're building, or be destroyed. The Confederation's era of dominance is over. The future belongs to all species, working together as equals. The battle continued around them, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. One by one, Confederation ships began powering down their weapons, signaling surrender. The few that tried to flee found their engines refusing to engage, trapped by overlapping quantum fields. As she watched the Confederation fleet yield, Sarah thought of the Morrison family, and all the others who had died under Confederation oppression. This victory wouldn't bring them back, but it ensured their deaths weren't in vain. A new age was beginning, one of true cooperation, of shared progress, of freedom for all species to reach their full potential. The galaxy was changing, just as humanity had planned. And this was only the beginning. The Great Hall of the Confederation Council lay in silence, its ornate chambers now occupied by representatives of 24 species. Where once the Confederation's ruling elite had sat in elevated positions above the rest, now all delegates sat in a circle as equals. Admiral Sarah Chin stood at the center, completing her address. The last Confederation holdouts surrendered this morning, she announced. Their quantum barriers have been disabled, and their leadership has agreed to stand trial for crimes against sentient species. A quiet murmur rippled through the assembly. After 3 months of conflict, the war was finally over. The Confederation's iron grip on the galaxy had been broken, not just by human technology, but by the united will of all those they had oppressed. The Keth representatives' crystalline form sparkled as they spoke. And what of the Confederation's hidden archives? The technologies they kept from us? Sarah gestured, and holographic displays materialized around the chamber. Everything has been made public. Their suppression of technological advancement, their manipulation of developing species, their deliberate prevention of contact between civilizations, it's all been exposed. The Neurai delegate, her iridescent eyes reflecting the holographic light, leaned forward. We've only begun to understand what they kept from us. The potential for advancement when species work together freely is beyond anything they imagined, Sarah completed. Already, the combination of human quantum science, Keth crystalline engineering, Neurai psychic technology, and drift silicon-based computing has opened up possibilities we never dreamed of. She activated another hologram, showing construction projects throughout the galaxy. New ships being built with combined technologies. Research stations where different species worked side by side. Healing centers where advanced medical techniques were being shared freely. But technology isn't our greatest achievement, Sarah continued. Look around this chamber. Species that were kept isolated from each other, taught to fear and distrust one another, now working together as equals. That's what the Confederation truly feared, not our weapons or our ships, but our ability to unite. The Drift representatives' crystalline matrix pulsed with agreement. They knew that together, we would be stronger than they could ever control. Sarah nodded. Which is why our first act as an alliance must be to ensure no single species can ever dominate the others again. We've drafted a new charter, based on principles of equality, shared progress, and mutual defense. The holographic displays shifted, showing the proposed structure of the new alliance. Power would be distributed equally, with rotating leadership and multiple checks and balances. Technology and resources would be shared openly. Every species would have the right to develop at their own pace, free from interference or suppression. We call it the Galactic Concordat, Sarah explained. Not an empire or a confederation, but a true partnership of equals. As she spoke, she thought of how far they'd come. Humanity had hidden and built in secret for generations, not just to free themselves, but to free all species from Confederation control. The Morrison family's death had been the catalyst, but the seeds of this revolution had been planted long ago. One by one, the representatives stood, signaling their approval of the new charter. The Nurai delegate spoke for them all. Let this be remembered as the day the galaxy truly united, not through force or fear, but through cooperation and hope. Sarah watched as the charter was formally ratified, her mission finally complete. Humanity had done more than prove its strength, they had helped forge a new future for all species. As the ceremony concluded, she received a message from the Nightingale. New signals had been detected from unexplored regions of space. More civilizations, reaching out to make contact now that the Confederation's barriers were gone. Sarah smiled. This wasn't an ending, it was just the beginning. The galaxy was entering a new age of exploration, discovery, and cooperation. And this time, every species would face it together. The stars themselves seemed brighter, as if celebrating the dawn of this new era. The age of oppression was over. The age of unity had begun.